بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما نافعا والحقنا بعبادك الصالحين آمين آمين. Inshallah, there is our fourth lesson on the story of Musa alayhi salam, on what benefits we can derive from it. And previously we spoke about an introduction to Musa alayhi salam and the background of Egypt at the time, Musa alayhi salam being born at the time where children were being killed, or in that year, by Pharaoh. And we said Egypt was two groups, the Egyptians and the Bani Israel, the children of Israel, meaning the descendants of Yaqub alayhi salam. And they were there because of Yusuf alayhi salam, which we previously mentioned, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala planned that Musa alayhi salam be saved by being brought up in the house of the oppressor himself, Pharaoh. And not much detail is mentioned of this time up until we come to the incident between Musa alayhi salam and the Coptic Egyptian, or in the Egyptian, and Musa alayhi salam struck him and killed him. And thereafter Musa alayhi salam's fleeing to Madian after being warned by the men in the city that they are looking for Musa alayhi salam, and his time in Madian, his marriage, his children, and thereafter his return back to Egypt, and what occurred in terms of him being given prophethood and being given the miracles of Allah by Allah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of the hand and the stick, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking to him. And then after we discussed the debates that occurred between Musa and Harun and Fir'aun. Allah blessed Musa alayhi salam with his brother as a prophet, as an aid to him. And the debate that occurred and the incident of the magicians. And remember, the magicians in the time of Musa alayhi salam are respected because they are the ulama of the people. They're the noblemen and they're the scholars of the people. They are the most knowledgeable. They were the advisors. So when Fir'aun also calls Musa alayhi salam a magician, it's not to degrade him the way Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was degraded by being called a magician, but he's trying to say that what you are doing is only trickery. Hence, this incident occurs and the magicians accept the message of Musa alayhi salam Islam, and Pharaoh and his people reject. And we said that Fir'aun punished them, as is mentioned in the Quran, لَوْ قَطِّعَنَّ أَيْدِيَكُمْ وَرُجُلَكُمْ مِنْ خِلَافٍ. He said, I will chop your hands off and your legs off from opposite sides. وَلَأُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ فِي جُذُوعِ النَّخْلِ. And I will crucify you all on the trunks of date palms. So that's what Fir'aun done. And that's where we reach in the story of Musa alayhi salam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered Musa alayhi salam and Harun now to reside in Egypt and to call Bani Israel and the people of Egypt to at-Tawheed, to worshipping Allah alone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in the Quran, and he says in Surah Al-Qasas from ayah number 127 to 129, after the incidents occurred and the signs were made true and they were made apparent that Musa alayhi salam has overpowered the magicians, and what he has come with is no magic but a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Musa alayhi salam, on this day when all gathered, they rejected. The establishment of Pharaoh and his advisors, what did they say? Allah mentions this incident in the Quran, and he says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وقال الملأ من قوم فرعون أتذر موسى وقومه ليفسدوا في الأرض ويذرك وآلهتك. The establishment of Pharaoh, they said to him, would you leave Musa and his people to transgress on this earth and to leave you and your gods? قال سنقتل أبناءهم ونستحيي نساءهم وإنا فوقهم قاهرون. Pharaoh said, verily we will kill their children and we will leave their women alive, and we are above them powerful. قال موسى لقومه استعينوا بالله واصبروا. Musa replies to this and he tells his people, O my people, seek help in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with sabr. إن الأرض لله, verily this earth is for Allah. يورثها من يشاء من عباده والعاقبة للمتقين. He gives it or inherits it or gives it to any of those he wills to inherit, and the ending is for those who have taqwa. قالوا أوذينا من قبل أن تأتينا ومن بعد ما جئتنا. They said to Musa alayhi salam, we have been harmed before you, meaning that he was killing us before you, and after you have come, this has increased in harm. قال عسى ربكم أن يهلك عدوكم ويستخلفكم في الأرض فينظر كيف تعملون. Musa alayhi salam told them, it may be that your Lord will destroy your enemy and he will make you successors on this earth and then see what you do when you are in places of power. This conversation you mentioned in the Quran is mentioning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't mention details of conversations and what happens and what occurred and how long time passed before this was said. But he mentions snippets for us to understand the psychology of men essentially. Firstly, there is the advisors to Pharaoh. There is Pharaoh. There's Musa and Harun. There's Musa's people. There are these four in the whole mix. And thereafter, others will enter into this conversation. We need to look at, when we read the story of Musa alayhi salam, how people react with each other and how we should react, because similar incidences repeat themselves. In terms of power, in terms of oppression, in terms of justice, in terms of injustice, all of these things, when a person is granted power, what does he do? When he is in a position of weakness, how does he react? The people of Musa alayhi salam, even though he came to them and he told them, seek help with Allah in patience, he told them, and then they replied, we were harmed before and after. They did not reply with good words. And there is the people of Musa alayhi salam. And that's why Musa alayhi salam, not only did he suffer at the hands of his enemies, of those who tried to belittle him and kill him and rejected his message from other than his own people, Bani Israel, but his own people caused trial and tribulation for him, and they affected him and harmed him. Like in this, these are just subtle indications. But when we get to the incidences that occurred after Fir'aun was destroyed and his people were destroyed, his armies were destroyed, you will see the people of Musa alayhi salam cause problems from Musa alayhi salam, even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is laying out for them ease. And this is the same way these people carry on today. These who adopt the way of their ancestors, those who Allah sent prophets to guide them, their ancestors are those who rejected the prophets. Bani Israel, from them are those who accepted Islam. And from them are prophets, and from them are those who reject. And today we see the same happening with the Jews and the Christians, the way they reject, and especially the Jews. What they say against Allah and His prophets and what they do against humanity is an indication that this is their sunnah on this earth. This is their way on this earth. So the establishment of Pharaoh, after this occurred, they encouraged him to now cause trial and tribulation and to kill the children of Bani Israel, or those who accepted, and as well to leave the women alive as they were doing, but to intensify in that. And they told Pharaoh, would you leave them? يَذَرَكَ وَآلِهَتَكَ. They will leave you and your gods, meaning they will leave your way, meaning your religion, and this is one of the opinions, and it's sound, and they will leave your ibadah, your worship. Or it can mean they leave your worship or they leave your religion, because the people of Egypt before Pharaoh had a religion, but the religion was distorted when the Pharaohs came, and inshallah we'll discuss what I mean by this shortly. Musa alayhi salam, he replied to them to take help and seek help in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through patience. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders us as believers in the Quran to do that when He says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah. Oh, you who believe, ista'inu, seek help with patience and salah and prayer. And then Musa alayhi salam informs them that if you seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with patience, the ending is for you. Inna al-arda lillah, this earth is for Allah. Wal-aqiba lil-muttaqeen. And in the end of the ayah, it says, the ending is for al-muttaqeen. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives it as an inheritance for whomever He wills. يُرِثُهَا مَن يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ. Like we said, they replied to Musa alayhi salam, and they said, we were harmed before and we are being harmed now. And Musa alayhi salam told them, it may be that your Lord will destroy your enemies and then give you dominance on this earth and see what you do. And we'll see inshallah what they do in the coming lessons. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in another place in the Quran, He mentions that Musa alayhi salam, when he came to them with clear signs. What occurred between Musa alayhi salam and the magicians in terms of the miracles was not something that was not convincing. They had magicians, they knew what was magic. They knew what they were doing. But the magicians, when they came and they saw what Musa alayhi salam came with in terms of his hand that was a light and his staff that turned into a real serpent, they understood that this is no trickery. And magic in that sense, is two types. There are two types of magic. There is what you call سحر تأثير and سحر تخيل. Musa alayhi salam came with سحر تخيل because that's what they were doing. What do I mean by these two words? Just to clarify, سحر التخيل is what you call illusions, where people, what they call sleight of hand or illusions to carry out certain trickery. It's trickery, magic of trickery. What do you see magicians doing on the stages today? Similar things. And then سحر تأثير is that magic which is done, which harms a person, what we call black magic. That can harm and cause sickness to a person. And we know the cure for this type of magic. المعوذتان قل أعوذ برب الفلق and قل أعوذ برب الناس. So what we're talking about in this ayah is سحر تخيل, or in the story of Musa alayhi salam, because Allah says in the Quran, it was illusion. يخيل إليهم. يخيل, it was made to seem to them. أنها تسعى, that it was, or that these snakes were actually standing up and slithering. That's what was made to appear to them, that these sticks and these strings were doing that. So يخيل, it is illusion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in another place in the Quran after that, showing that they came with magic, but Musa alayhi salam came with clear signs. Allah says in Surah Ghafir, ayah number 23 and 24, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا وَسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ. And we sent Moses with our clear signs, وَسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ, and clear dominance or authority. إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ وَهَامَانَ وَقَارُونَ فَقَالُوا سَاحِرٌ كَذَّابٌ. We send him to Pharaoh, and we send him to Haman, and we send him to Qarun. And Allah mentions in the Quran, lots of the time when He mentions, He will mention the leaders of the people. And He will mention those who are in the establishment of government. But you very seldomly will you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning those who are the laymen. If they are mentioned, they are not mentioned alone. They are mentioned as being follow-ups to those who have power. So if anybody has power in society, and the lesson is for us, if you have power in terms of knowledge or status, if you have power in terms of wealth, if you have influence over people, all of that in terms of popularity, you are responsible for what you do, and you will be responsible for what others do in following you or imitating your actions. And this is why these people are mentioned in the Quran. Who was Fir'aun? Who was Harun? Who was Qarun? Who was Haman? Who are these people? Fir'aun, we know. He was their king and the one they worshipped. Haman was the main advisor to Pharaoh. He was his main advisor and his minister. He is the one who took control of Egypt. He controlled Egypt. Like the same way we said in the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, there was a king and Yusuf was a minister over Egypt. He controlled everything. This was Haman. He was in control. وقارون. Qarun was a man from Bani Israel, from the people of Musa alayhi salam, from the descendants of Yusuf and his brothers. However, he had adopted the religion of the people of Egypt, and he did not remain like the rest of Bani Israel, who still were on the remnants of the religion of their forefathers before them, Yusuf and Yaqub and Ishaq and Ibrahim alayhi salam. But he had adopted this religion, and he was the most wealthy individual that ever lived. Qarun. He was extremely wealthy. And that is why you can see, even though he was from a people other than the Egyptians, his wealth gave him status. And wealth gives a person status, and it is dangerous. All of them, it is dangerous if it is not kept in check. But other than that, wealth can be used for goodness as well. Always remember that. So Qarun and Haman and Fir'aun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that Musa alayhi salam came to them with clear signs. What did they say and what do they do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ بِالْحَقِّ مِنْ عِنْدِنَا قَالُوا اقْتُلُوا أَبْنَاءَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ وَاسْتَحْيُوا نِسَاءَهُمْ وَمَا كَيْدُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ. And when he came to them with our clear signs, the people of Egypt, especially these three we mentioned, Fir'aun and Haman and Qarun, مِنْ عِنْدِنَا قَالُوا اقْتُلُوا أَبْنَاءَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ. They said, kill those who believed with Musa. Kill them. وَاسْتَحْيُوا نِسَاءَهُمْ, and leave the women alive. They leave the women alive to do what? To do their work that they need to be done, their manual labor. وَمَا كَيْدُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ. And the plans of the disbelievers are in misguidance. And here again, if you read the ayat in the Quran and you look at them and you put them into context of what's happening today, know that the end is for Allah and the believers. Whatever is happening to the ummah at the moment, if we take the advices of the prophets and we do as we have been commanded by Allah and His Messenger, the end will be for us. And again, we need to remember something. No matter what a believer does, no matter what, As long as he says La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, no matter what faction he comes from, or what he follows in terms of his politics, or what madhab, or whether he is any type of person, if he is still a believer, he is better than any kafir. He is better than any kafir. And none of this, what they said, kill the people of Musa alayhi salam, leave the women alive, torture them, none of this aided them in the end. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وقال فرعون ذروني أقتل موسى وليدع ربه إني أخاف أن يبدل دينكم أو أن يظهر في الأرض الفساد. In Surah Ghafir, ayah number 26, just after this ayat. And Pharaoh said, leave me to kill Musa and let him call his Lord. Verily I fear that he will change your religion and he will be apparent on this earth in transgression. Here there's two things. Firstly, it sounds contradictory that Pharaoh has these two advisors, Haman and Qarun, telling him, and he has an establishment ordering or informing him or advising him to kill Musa alayhi salam, not to leave him and his people. And here Pharaoh is saying, let me kill Musa. It indicates something, that within his establishment, and no people ever we can claim that there's no goodness in them. In his establishment, there were people who were good-hearted and they wanted to see good. They believed in Musa alayhi salam. So they advised Fir'aun to leave Musa alayhi salam. And that is why he's saying, let me kill Musa and let him call his Lord. And I fear, and he's advising them back now, I fear that you will change your religion and you will cause transgression on the earth. And this is so strange. Fir'aun is the one who's claiming they'll change, Musa will change their religion. But their religion is Tawheed. And he'll cause transgression and corruption on the earth when Fir'aun is the one who will cause corruption on the earth. And this is same like the exact same statement he made to Musa alayhi salam when he returned to Egypt. What did he say to Musa alayhi salam? He told Musa alayhi salam when he returned to Egypt, وَفَعَلْتَ فَعْلَتَكَ الَّتِي فَعَلْتَ. And you did the action that you had carried out. Which action? The action of striking the Egyptian and killing him. He is taking Musa alayhi salam to task for all these actions he done before prophethood and when he was in Egypt. But he forgets that he's taking Musa alayhi salam to task for a mistake that he committed when he is the one who had killed thousands over years and years, killing the children of Bani Israel. And that same rhetoric is purported today in the media. When we see what is happening worldwide, especially to our brothers in Palestine, they claim that the Muslims and the Palestinians are the ones who are perpetrating acts of violence. And this is the same like Musa alayhi salam, but rather they are the ones perpetrating the acts of violence. So when Pharaoh is claiming now, you're the one who perpetrated this crime, he forgets all his crimes. He forgets what he has done. And then he mirrors all what he has done in terms of evil onto Musa alayhi salam. They know what they are doing is wrong. Otherwise, they cannot accuse somebody else of it. And there is the same thing we need to remember. This is the sunnah of Allah. And this is the sunnah of the transgressors on earth. This is what they said. Fir'aun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when he said to his people, I fear he'll change your religion and he will transgress on the earth, Musa alayhi salam replies to Fir'aun and he says, إني عذت بربي وربكم من كل متكبر لا يؤمن بيوم الحساب. He tells Fir'aun, I have sought refuge from my Lord and your Lord. Meaning you know it's the truth. You know what you did is wrong and what we are doing is correct. And I seek protection from every mutakabbir, every haughty, arrogant person, la yu'minu, doesn't believe in the day of reckoning. And who can carry on in such a manner that they just rape and kill and pillage, and they don't believe that there'll be a day that they will need to answer for it, except those who don't believe. Those who don't believe and they think that the time will not come, this is what they do. And the same can be said for what is occurring today. The exact same thing is occurring. And that's why Musa alayhi salam told him, min kulli mutakabbir, from every arrogant, haughty person, la yu'minu biyawm al-hisab. They don't believe in the day of hisab, of accounting. Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now clearly informs us that there are those from the establishment of Pharaoh that are advising him with goodness because they believed in what they saw when Musa alayhi salam came and they did not reject the truth. Allah says in Surah Ghafir, again, the ayat which continue after that, 27 to 29, وَقَالَ رَجُلٌ مُؤْمِنٌ مِّنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ. And a man who believed from the family of Fir'aun. They say it is the son of his uncle, his nephew. It is the son of his uncle, his cousin. It was his cousin that had believed. Min ali Fir'aun. Yaktumu imana. Allah says, and a man who believed from the people of Fir'aun, yaktumu imana, he was hiding his iman. Ataqtuluna rajulan ay yaqula rabbi Allah. He said to them that would you kill a man that just says Allah is my Lord? And the same thing Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said to Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt when he was strangling Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Abu Bakr came to the messenger's aid and he pushed him away and he told him, are you going to kill a man just because he says Allah is my Lord? The difference between Abu Bakr and this man is Abu Bakr did not hide his iman even though they were being persecuted, and this man hid his iman, and they knew after this that he was a believer. وَإِيَّكُ كَاذِبًا فَعَلَيْهِ كَذِبُ. Now he advises them and he tells them, and this man here, before we even go into his advice, just to mention who believed in Musa alayhi salam. This man here, some commentators say it is the same man who advised Musa alayhi salam to flee Egypt all those years before when he fled to Madian. And some say they are two different men. Both of them believed, or if it's the same man, then he believed. And the wife of Pharaoh, she believed as well. And some people say that this man here was from Bani Israel, but the context suggests otherwise. His name was, some say his name was Sham'an, some say his name was Khair, it doesn't matter. There was a man who believed. And this again tells us that not everybody can be considered from a people bad, but generally a people follow certain traits. This man here, he advised them and he said, telling them, وَإِيَّكُ كَاذِبًا فَعَلَيْهِ كَذِبُ وَإِيَّكُ صَادِقًا يُصِبْكُمْ بَعْضُ الَّذِي يَعِدْكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي مَنْ هُوَ مُسْرِفٌ كَذَّابٌ. If he is lying, then his lie will not harm you. Why do you want to kill him? But if he is speaking the truth, then some of what he is saying may afflict you. And verily Allah does not guide those who are transgressive liars. يَا قَوْمِ لَكُمُ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمَ ظَاهِرِينَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. O my people, you have today clear wealth and power on this earth. فَمَنْ يَنْصُرُنَا مِنْ بَأْسِ اللَّهِ إِنْ جَاءَنَا. Then what will come of us when Allah's punishment comes upon us? Who can save us? Who will be our victors in that time? قال فرعون ما أريكم إلا ما أرى وما أهديكم إلا سبيل الرشاد. Fir'aun said, I will do as I see, and I will guide you to a clear, straight path. Fir'aun, he replied to this man. Here, there's something to be said. Sometimes jihad can even be a word said in truth. Jihad can be a word said against somebody who may punish you for it. And this man was one of them. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said in the hadith, أفضل الجهاد كلمة عدل عند سلطان جائر. The best of jihad is to say a word of truth in front of the ruler who is oppressive. That is jihad as well. And we see this, the ulama who are in Muslim lands, who have been imprisoned. I mean, you don't know about them. Those who know them, because of what they said and what they would display in terms of their sincerity to this religion. So they were kept or taken away and they were crossed off. And propaganda was used to make them look as they are the evil ones. And today, those who know what I am speaking about, they know about it. They realize this from before. In certain prisons, in certain Muslim countries, filled with ulama. Ulama who spoke the truth. And the ones, some are afraid, they are quiet, and they are still better. And there are those who are the mouthpieces of evil. They have knowledge, but they are ulama sultan. They are the ulama of the sultan, or the leader. They do as he says, not as the real sultan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from knowledge which will harm us and not benefit us. The statement of Pharaoh at the end, he said that I will do as I see fit and I will guide you to a straight path. Both these statements are false statements. Firstly, he knew with truth that what Musa alayhi salam came with was the truth. He knew that he was no deity. He knew that what he was on was falsehood. Secondly, Musa alayhi salam tells Pharaoh in the Quran, informing us that this reality is the truth, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, he told Pharaoh, لَقَدْ عَلِمْتَ مَا أَنزَلَ هَؤُلَاءِ إِلَّا رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بَصَائِرُ وَإِنِّي لَأَظُنُّكَ يَا فِرْعَوْنُ مَثْبُورًا. He tells Pharaoh, and you know that none of this has come except from the Lord of the samawat and earth, the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Basair, clear. وَإِنِّي لَأَظُنُّكَ يَا فِرْعَوْنُ مَثْبُورًا. And I verily see you, Pharaoh, as mathbura, destroyed. You're going to be destroyed. You are in destruction. So he knew what Musa alayhi salam had come with was the truth. And his statement, وَمَا أَهْدِيكُمْ إِلَّا سَبِيلَ الرَّشَادِ, I won't guide you except to the straight path. When Pharaoh told his people after this, if you look at it, these people here were worshipping idols and other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we mentioned this in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, that the wife of Al-Aziz, she covered the idols which were in a room when she tried to seduce Yusuf alayhi salam. Pharaoh, he changed their religion. Firstly, he laughed upon them because they worshipped idols, and then he made them worship him as well. But remember something, all of these statements indicate they knew Allah. They knew that there was one Supreme Lord, because they would mention Allah and they would ignore Allah when it pleased them. And they worship the idols, and when Pharaoh subjugated them to his worship, they obeyed. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about Fir'aun in the Quran. May Allah curse him. He says, ونادى فرعون في قومه قال يا قوم أليس لي ملك مصر وهذه الأنهار تجري من تحتي. Pharaoh called out to his people and he said, "Oh my people, is there not my dominion over Egypt only? And these rivers, they flow from beneath me. أفلا تبصرون, do you not see? أم أنا خير من هذا الذي هو مهين ولا يكاد يبين. Am I not better than this one who can hardly even clarify what he is saying? فلولا ألقي عليه أسورة من ذهب." He begins now by claiming that dominion is for him. He is the Lord from which these rivers flow. And do they know any other king of Egypt? And then he begins now by belittling Musa alayhi salam, and so are the oppressors today. He says, this one who can't even speak. The same way our own brothers and sisters in Palestine are being called animals. They are being called animals and they are being treated like that. And that is not something new. Anybody who goes back to history and looks at what occurred, they were treated the same way. A people who claim that they claim it. Because I can tell you something, when we say they claim they were tortured in Europe, they were tortured in Europe, but they took that to their advantage, and they were tortured and they were punished in Europe for actions that they had done. For actions that they had done. They had brought certain punishments upon themselves. So when they go, and not only a few years later, they go and they perpetrate the same crimes against another people, it shows you what type of mentality they have. They have this mentality that we are superior to everybody else, and all of mankind is subjugated to us. There is the mentality that Bani Israel have. They have the mentality of Pharaoh and his people. They are all subjugated to us. That is what he mocked Musa alayhi salam now. And they mock the Palestinians today the same way. But remember, al-aqiba lil-muttaqin. The ending is for al-muttaqin, those who have taqwa. And al-muslimin, those who submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pharaoh said to his people in another place in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَرَاهُ الْآيَةَ الْكُبْرَى. And we showed him the great signs. فَكَذَّبَ وَعَصَى. But he belied our signs and he transgressed. ثُمَّ أَدْبَرَ يَسْعَى. And he turned away and he carried on in his what he was in terms of disbelief. فحشر فنادى. And he gathered his people and he called to them and he said, أنا ربكم الأعلى. فقال أنا ربكم الأعلى. He said, I am your Lord Most High. So he claimed divinity for himself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after that says, فأخذه الله نكال الآخرة والأولى. So he was taken by the punishment before and after. And the same will happen for every oppressor, every transgressor, every single one who has rejected the truth. The same will happen for them. Punishment will overtake them in this world, and if not in this world, definitely in the year after. The one who believed from the family of Fir'aun, he did not stop there. Thereafter, he called them to what Musa alayhi salam believed in. And here again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions these incidents in the Quran in different places. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't mention details of what occurred in between all of that. He mentions to us that there were these hallmarks in the life of Musa alayhi salam, and from them is they must have been in Egypt. They must have remained there for a time. Pharaoh must have began killing people. He rejected Musa alayhi salam. Then Bani Israel, some of them believed. Even Bani Israel, how many of them believed in Musa alayhi salam? Only a few. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِلَّا ذُرِّيَّةٌ مِّن قَوْمِهِ. Only a few from Bani Israel, from his people, they believed in him, in Musa alayhi salam. Dhurriya means a few the young people. Some of them believed in him. And the others, they did not believe. They just believed out of fear from Fir'aun wa malayhim and his establishment. So Musa alayhi salam, this man from the house of Pharaoh, he believed, and then he called them to the way of Musa alayhi salam at-tawheed, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Allah says in the Quran, وَقَالَ الَّذِي آمَنَ يَا قَوْمِ إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ مِثْلَ يَوْمِ الْأَحْزَابِ. He said, "O my people, I fear upon you a day, يوم الأحزاب, the day of gathering. مثل دأب قوم نوح وعاد وثمود. Like the day that came upon the people of Nuh and Ad and Thamud." He is telling them, I fear you all will be destroyed like the nations before, meaning they knew it in their scriptures. But today it's not mentioned in the scriptures about Ad and Thamud, the Arab tribes. In the Jewish scriptures, it's not mentioned there. However, it was there before because they knew about it. وَالَّذِينَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ, and those who came after them. وَمَا اللَّهُ يُرِيدُ ظُلْمًا لِلْعِبَادِ, and Allah does not want for His servants oppression. وَيَا قَوْمِ إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ يَوْمَ التَّنَادِ, and O my people, I fear upon you يَوْمَ التَّنَادِ. يَوْمَ التَّنَادِ can mean يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ or يَوْمَ الْفِرَاقِ, the day where you have to run away from punishment in this world. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He advised them and reminded them of what came before, indicating to us how the people were in their psychology, how they thought and how those before them thought. He said to them, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ يُوسُفُ مِنْ قَبْلُ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ فَمَا زِلْتُمْ فِي شَكٍّ مِمَّا جَاءَكُمْ بِهِ. And remember that Joseph came to you all, Yusuf alayhi salam came to you all before, and you all are instilled with clear proofs and signs, and you all still remain in doubt with what he has come, indicating to them two things: that this message has come to you all before, and then he said, and the second thing, indicating to them that they are still upon doubt, meaning that he is reminding them that Yusuf alayhi salam came before, and this man here, Musa, is from his progeny, meaning he's coming with the same message, and he's actually from his literal progeny. And secondly, you all are still in doubt, indicating that these people here did not accept Islam or did not accept the truth easily. It was a difficult process upon them, and we can see this in the history of Bani Israel. The prophets who came to Bani Israel, they suffered. They came to their own people and they suffered with these people. And they would kill. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran that they kill the prophets. They would kill prophets. And they disbelieved. And they would change their religion and they would cause fasad and transgression and corruption on the earth. So it indicates this. And then he tells them, حَتَّى إِذَا هَلَيَ قُلْتُمْ لَن يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ رَسُولًا, until Yusuf alayhi salam passed away, and then you said Allah will never send a messenger after that. Here Musa alayhi salam is amongst you, again a messenger. كَذَلِكَ يَطْبَعُ اللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ قَلْبِ مُتَكَبِّرٍ جبار. In the end of the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and in that way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seals the hearts of every mutakabbir jabbar, every strong, oppressive, haughty person on this earth. Allah seals their hearts. If you are oppressive and you are haughty and you see yourself as superior, your heart will be sealed by the Almighty. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us. What did Pharaoh do while all this was unraveling? Because he realizes now he will not give up power. He cannot give up power. Why? If he knows there is a truth that Musa alayhi salam has come with. People from Bani Israel, all of them believe, but only few of them believe openly. From his own establishment, some of them believe, and all of them know it is the truth, but they don't give it up. Why? Because they lose power. He tells his minister Haman, he tells Haman, وَقَالَ فِرْعَوْنُ يَا هَامَانُ ابْنِ لِي صَرْحًا لَعَلِّي أَبْلُغُ الْأَسْبَابِ. He says, Haman, build for me a tower so that I may reach al-asbab, the reasons of the sky. Why he wants to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَسْبَابَ السَّمَاوَاتِ فَأَطَّلِعَ إِلَى إِلَهِ مُوسَى وَإِنِّي لَأَظُنُّهُ كَاذِبًا, so that I may reach the Lord of Musa. وَإِنِّي لَأَظُنُّهُ كَاذِبًا, and verily I think he is a liar. Who is the liar? Either he's saying, I think he is a liar, there is no Lord of Musa alayhi salam, when I get to the skies I'll see nothing. Or I think he is a liar, when I get to his Lord I'll ask him, he say I didn't send Musa alayhi salam. Both of these statements are contradictory. Why? If he says that I am your Lord Most High, now he himself admits that there is a Lord that he wants to speak to. He's trying to build something to reach the skies, indicating that he himself knew and his people knew, because all of the statements of his are contradictory statements. Allah says about this incident, وَكَذَلِكَ زُيِّنَ لِفِرْعَوْنَ سُوءُ عَمَلِهِ وَسُدَّ عَنِ السَّبِيلِ. And like that we made for, or we beautified for Pharaoh his actions, and we blocked him from as-sabil, the path. وَمَا كَيْدُ فِرْعَوْنَ إِلَّا فِي تَبَابٍ. And the plot of Pharaoh is only, the plot of Pharaoh will be in tabab, khasar, in loss. Those who follow this way will be in loss as well. And remember something, Bani Israel did not suffer for a short period of time, they suffered for a long time. And if we feel that we are suffering now for a long time, then remember, a long time is for us a long time. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses it to know who are those who are truthful and those who are not truthful. أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do the people think that they will believe and they will say we believe and they will not be tested? Verily we have tested those before them. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّا الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ فَلَا يَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلَا يَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. So that Allah may know those who are truthful and those who are liars, who just claim belief. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us in the Quran that He uses it to purify us from al-khabith, those who are filthy, to purify them, take them away, take them out of this. So this is the same sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which repeats itself, and those who take lesson and heed, they are the ones who are successful. More than one of the mufassirun, they mentioned that this sarh, the tower that he wanted, the reality is we don't know what actually happened. Did he build it? Didn't he build it? But they mentioned that it was a palace that he built, and there are remnants of this palace. And the people of the book, they mentioned that this palace now that he was building, a high palace he was building, the people who were used in the affair of building this palace and who were taken to task of Bani Israel, they were made to work hard labor to build this palace. And they were made to form bricks. They were responsible for coming with the mud and the hay and the water that would be used to form these bricks that would be used then to build the palace. And they had a quota that they needed to meet every day. There is in the what the Jews and the Christians mention in their scriptures. And if they were not able to come with that quota, they would be punished and disgraced for not being able to come with that quota. So he used those who believe themselves to build this palace. The same way they say now, what we do, they use the Muslims themselves to oppress each other. The same thing is happening. We are oppressing each other sometimes by falling into the trap that has been put with us, or we are being used to do actions of oppression against our own brothers. If you return to the advice that this man gave his people, the believer of the house of Pharaoh, he said, يا قومي, he said, وقال الذي آمن يا قومي اتبعوني أهدكم سبيل الرشاد. He said, oh my people, follow me, meaning follow the way of Musa alayhi salam. And he says the opposite to what Pharaoh is saying. I will guide you to سبيل الرشاد, the clear path. يا قومي إنما هذه الحياة الدنيا متاع. Oh my people, because why didn't the people of Pharaoh, the Egyptians, believe? They would have lost. They thought now we'll become equal with the Bani Israel. Pharaoh said he'll lose power as being the only one worshipped. He's telling them this world, yeah, he's telling them, يا قوم إنما هذه الحياة الدنيا متاع. Oh my people, this world is متاع. It's an illusion. It's nothing. وإن الآخرة هي دار القرار. But the place of that will remain is الآخرة, دار القرار. من عمل سيئة فلا يجزى إلا مثلها. Whoever does a evil deed, he will be rewarded for it the same way. ومن عمل صالحا من ذكر أنثى وهو مؤمن. But the one who does a good deed, male or female, and he is a believer, فأولئك يدخلون الجنة يرزقون فيها بغير حساب. They will enter into paradise and they will be sustained there with no accounting. So he's telling them about, reminding them. This is what you call الترهيب والترغيب, warning them and reminding them, admonishing them and giving them good news that if you, this world here is nothing. It's something which has no benefit. It is an illusion for you. It is something that you just take. It is mata'. Mata' is a possession that you have that you use and you dispose of it. He's telling them that Allah uses this language in the Quran, that this world is something that you'll dispose of. It's worth nothing. But what is worth something is al-akhirah. And that's what you call now, where he's giving them a targhib, desirous. He's making them desirous of the hereafter, because all of them know it's the truth. And that is why after that, he now uses intellect to break them down. And he tells them, يا قومي ما لي أدعوكم إلى النجاة وتدعونني إلى النار. Oh my people, why is it that you call me, I call you to النجاة, to success, and you call me to the fire? تدعونني لأكفر بالله وأشرك به ما ليس لي به علم. You call me to associate partners with Allah that I have no knowledge of. وأنا أدعوكم إلى العزيز الغفار, and I call you to Al-Aziz, the most high, Al-Ghaffar, the most forgiving. لا جرم أن ما تدعونني إليه ليس له دعوة في الدنيا ولا في الآخرة وأن مردنا إلى الله وأن المسرفين هم أصحاب النار. And then after he tells them about why he believes in Allah, and then he tells them فستذكرون ما أقول لكم. Remember what I say to you. وأفوض أمري إلى الله, and I put my affair on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إن الله بصير بالعباد فوقاه الله سيئات ما مكروا وحاق بآل فرعون سوء العذاب. So Allah saved him from the transgression of the people of Pharaoh, and thereafter he punished the Pharaoh and his army. النار يعرضون عليها غدوا وعشيا. Fire is shown to them morning and evening. ويوم القيامة ويوم تقوم الساعة أدخلوا آل فرعون أشد العذاب. ويوم تقوم الساعة. And on that day when the hour will come, Allah will say, أدخلوا, enter them, all of them, آل فرعون أشد العذاب, the people of Fir'aun, and they will see the most severe punishment. Yeah, there's a benefit out of the story. The benefit is that some people reject punishment in the grave. There is a sect that reject that there will be punishment in the grave. There is clear proof that there is punishment in the grave. Allah says, النار يعرضون عليه النار يعرضون عليها غدوا وعشيا. The fire is shown to them غدوا وعشيا, morning and evening. ويوم تقوم الساعة, and when the hour will come, أدخلوا آل فرعون أشد العذاب, the people of Pharaoh, those who are with him, whether they are Egyptians or others, أدخلوا آل فرعون أشد العذاب, they will be put into أشد العذاب, the most severe punishment, indicating that the punishment was in the grave. They were shown the fire morning and evening, they placed in the fire, and when Qiyamah comes, they will be thrown into that fire. So there is a clear proof, and the Mufassirun have spoken in detail about this, that there is punishment in the grave. And adab, punishment, does not come to a people except after clear proofs have come to them. And in today's time, nobody can claim that there is no clear proof. Islam is clear. Information is available at your fingertips. Everywhere in the world, nobody can claim that we fall under the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he says, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا, and we will not punish a people until we send a messenger. The messenger has come, and people know about the messenger. And the Jews and the Christians, the people of the book, in their scriptures, the messenger is mentioned by name, in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. In fact, what remains today in the Torah, in their books, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioned by name. Until today, they curse Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Masjid al-Aqsa, in the holy lands that the Muslims are the only ones who hold sacred. They curse the messenger and they say Muhammad is dead, his religion is dead, and they use words I don't even want to say them against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And here there's something to touch upon. A claim of something should be tested. When those who now occupy the land of Palestine, which is a Muslim land, it is for the Muslims, claim that that land is theirs, it is a sacred land, then ask me and ask yourself, is it that the people who claim that this is our holy land and this is sacred land, they open nightclubs on that land, there's prostitution on that land, they pillage that land, and then after that, to show that they have no allegiance to that land, they hold dual nationality. So they hold the passports to their original country, and they hold citizenships to that country. If this is your land and you will die for it, then why not remain in it? Why transgress in it by opening nightclubs and killing people and prostitution and carrying out acts of vice on this land? Why do they do that? They don't see it as a holy land. It is just an opportunity for them to live the life of this world. Everything is about wealth and money and control. Nothing more, nothing less. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from the same fate, and may He give us victory over the oppressors. This occurred, and the advices were given, and the signs were shown, and the proof was established by Musa to his people and to the people of Egypt, and by Harun, and thereafter to the advisors in the house of Fir'aun, but they did not believe. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thereafter sent now to them punishments and trials. What are these punishments and trials? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فأرسلنا عليهم الطوفان والجراد والقمل والضفادع والدم آيات مفصلات. And we sent upon them الطوفان, the floods, والجراد, locust, والقمل, lice, and there's many interpretations of what's meant here. We'll speak about them. والضفادع, and frogs, والدم, and blood. آيات مفصلات, آيات, signs, مفصلات, in detail. فاستكبروا وكانوا قوما مجرمين. Even after these trials came to them, فاستكبروا, Allah says they became arrogant, وكانوا مجرمين, and they were criminals. What were these trials? The first one was الطوفان. الطوفان, there's opinions of what is meant. Some say it can mean, الطوفان can mean excessive death, and others say it can mean floods which destroy crop and it destroys livelihood and it enters into the homes. And they say that the Nile overflowed up until it covered all their homes, and they were afflicted by this flood and it killed all their crops. So Allah sent the sign. When the sign was sent, what did they do? And what did they say? They said the same thing. They told Musa alayhi salam, ask your Lord to remove from us this trial and we will believe. Inshallah, we'll mention it in detail. The next one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after they do that, He sends to them again another trial because they break it. He sends a locust, and the locust came and it ate their crops and they suffered. And locusts, you're allowed to eat locusts in Islam. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith, أكثر جنود الله لا آكل ولا أحرمه. They're the biggest army of Allah, locusts. He said, I don't eat them, but I don't make them haram. There are things which Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not eat, which are not haram. From them is leek. From them are onions, garlic. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam disliked eating that. Locust, and there's a lizard desert that they would eat. Khalid ibn al-Walid ate it on the table of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he did not forbid him ad-dab. It's called ad-dab. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't eat these things, but they are not haram to eat them. And there's a hadith from Abdullah ibn Abi Awfa where he said 7 battles we fought with Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we ate locusts. With Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he saw them eating it, so you're allowed to eat locusts. The second, or the third was al-qummal. Al-qummal is lice. Some say it's lice, some scholars say it is small insects. Some scholars say it is locusts which do not fly, like you find tiny locusts. Some say it means bed bugs that afflicted them. They were afflicted now with these insects which made their life difficult up until, and some say it is insects that they found in the food, maggots that came about in the food, until it made their life unbearable. Again, they asked Musa alayhi salam, ask your Lord to remove it. When he removed it, they did not believe. Thereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends them frogs, and the frogs inhabited their lands, in their houses, in their clothing, everywhere they found frogs, and the same occurred again. And thereafter, dam, blood. All the water that they would take from the Nile, even the water, some of the scholars say that was stored before this occurred, that water even turned to blood. So this was the punishments or the trials that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent upon them. But even with that, every time they asked Musa alayhi salam to remove the trial, thereafter, when it was removed, they disbelieved. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about this, وَلَمَّا وَقَعَ عَلَيْهِمُ الرِّجْسُ قَالُوا يَا مُوسَى ادْعُ لَنَا رَبَّكَ بِمَا عَهِدَ عِنْدَكَ. When punishment came upon them, they said to Musa, "O Moses, ask your Lord to remove this and call out to him with what he has promised. لَإِن كَشَفْتَ عَنَّا الرِّجْسَ لَنُؤْمِنَنَّ لَكَ وَلِنُرْسِلَنَّ مَعَكَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلِ. If he removes from us his punishment, we will believe with you and we will send forth Bani Israel. We'll let you leave this land. فَلَمَّا كَشَفْنَا عَنْهُمُ الرِّجْزَ إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ هُمْ بَالِغُوهُ إِذَا هُمْ يَنكُثُونَ. And when we removed this trial for them, up until a portion time, they go back on what they had promised. And thereafter Allah says, فَانْتَقَمْنَا مِنْهُمْ فَأَغْرَقْنَاهُمْ فِي الْيَمِّ بِأَنَّهُمْ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَكَانُوا عَنْهَا غَافِلِينَ. So we avenged from them and we took revenge and we drowned them in the sea, Pharaoh and his armies, meaning because they belied our signs and they were those who were heedless. So this is their situation and this is what they do. They are known to lie. These people here who Musa alayhi salam came to, they were liars. And you will see the same trait when they are in power, the Egyptians. Bani Israel that Musa alayhi salam were with, most of the people did the same thing to Musa alayhi salam, their own prophet. After they saw Pharaoh do it to their prophet, and he did it to them, when they gain power on the earth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them independence, they do it to their prophet. And they do the same actions that repeat over and over again in a similar manner to Fir'aun. And this is the way of every mutakabbir. Every haughty person, this is the way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, to summarize all of this, he says, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ وَمَلَئِهِ فَقَالَ إِنِّي رَسُولُ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. We sent Musa to Pharaoh and his establishment, and he said, I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ بِآيَاتِنَا إِذَا هُمْ مِنْهَا يَضْحَكُونَ. And when he came with the signs, they laughed at him. They laughed at him. That is the way the mutakabbir, the haughty people, they carry on. The Jews did it to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in Medina, and they called him ra'ina, ra'ina. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَقُولُوا رَاعِنَا. They would say ra'ina. Instead of look at us, they would mention a word, ra'ina, which was a bad word. They mocked Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they mocked the Quran. Bani Israel, they did it again to Musa alayhi salam, and Allah told them, enter into the holy land, saying hitta, purify us from our sins. They said hinta. They mocked what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them to say. This is the way of al-mutakabbir, the one who is haughty and arrogant and sees that he has no need of Allah. And remember something, do not think that Allah goes without knowing what the oppressors do. But Allah gives them time up until the day where their eyes will look in fear. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ اللَّهَ غَافِلًا عَمَّا يَعْمَلُ الظَّالِمُونَ. Do not take account of Allah that He does not know what the oppressors do. إِنَّمَا يُؤَخِّرُهُمْ لِيَوْمٍ تَشْخَصُ فِيهِ الْأَبْصَارِ. Verily they are given or delayed to a time where تَشْخَصُ فِيهِ الْأَبْصَارِ, the eyes will look in fear. They will know what is coming to them. So Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun, the story is that this occurred and the signs were sent to Pharaoh. And when these signs came, all of them came as a punishment. Each time it occurred, they promised they will believe. And when Musa alayhi salam prayed to Allah, they returned back to their disbelief. And thereafter, one incident occurs before the next chapter in the story where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now destroys Pharaoh and his armies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Pharaoh, when he came and he mocked Musa alayhi salam, and they mocked it, he said Musa alayhi salam cannot even speak properly. And they mocked them, they laughed at the signs that Musa alayhi salam came with. Every time they claim it is for us, or punishment comes upon them, they say we will be with you, and then they return back to what they were on, meaning that they all knew this was the truth. Nobody can come with these things. Nobody can turn the Nile into blood or send locusts upon you or floods in this manner, one after another, after you have been warned, except if it is from the Lord of the worlds. He told Musa alayhi salam, أو جاء معه الملائكة المقترنين أو جاء معه الملائكة مقترنين. He said, he's saying to Musa alayhi salam, he can't even speak properly. Then he says, why didn't he come with jewelry, bangles? Why isn't he somebody wealthy? Or why didn't angels come to assist him? There is the same rhetoric that the Quraysh used with Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. What did they say? They told Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in Mecca that why don't you come with the angel? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in the Quran, and he says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا قَبْلَكَ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ إِلَّا إِنَّهُمْ لَيَأْكُلُونَ الطَّعَامَ وَيَمْشُونَ فِي الْأَسْوَاقِ. And we have not sent before you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, min al-mursaleen, from the messengers, except that they would eat and they would be in the market. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in another place in the Quran, فَلَعَلَّكَ تَارِكٌ بَعْضَ مَا يُوحَى إِلَيْكَ. Maybe it will be that you will leave something which has been revealed upon you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَضَاقَ بِهِ صَدْرُكَ, because your heart, your chest has become constrained of what they say. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? Why is it like that? Because they say, أن يقولوا لولا أنزل عليه كنز أو جاء معه ملك. They're saying that maybe he should come with a treasure or an angel should come down. That is what they want. But even when the angel comes down, they will not believe. They will not believe. Their hearts have been sealed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after that, he says, فَلَمَّا آسَفُونَ انتقمنا منهم. When they angered us, انتقمنا منهم, we avenged Musa and his people. We took revenge for them. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? How was the revenge done? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we drowned them in the sea, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ سَلَفًا وَمَثَلًا لِلْآخِرِينَ. And we made them salaf, a precedent for everybody. Every single oppressor and transgressor on this earth, we made them a precedent for them. وَمَثَلًا, and we made them an example for those who will come after. We need to take heed and we need to understand that this is a situation. All of us in our own personal capacity as well need to understand that. Don't let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make a lesson out of you because you oppress somebody. Don't let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make a lesson out of you because you reject the truth when it comes to you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed all of them, even though He gave Pharaoh a long reign before that. And He allowed His people strength on this earth for a time. But in the end, الأرض لله يورثها من يشاء والعاقبة للمتقين. This land and this world is for Allah, and He gives it to those whom He wills, and the ending is for al-muttaqeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who are al-muttaqeen. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.